啊，对啊。I was told the mountain tea, the whole village only has like 5 kilo. It's not much. I like the winding road of this little village. It's so cool. It's definitely one of the better villages in China. 好。It's kind of bumpy. This is the tea was the name was actually given by an emperor in Qing Dynasty, by Kangxi Emperor. The tea usually was called scary fragrance, but when the emperor saw the tea and tasted the tea, he's like, such a beautiful tea and with such a tender green taste, and with such a foul name, it's not right. So he renamed it Bi Luo Chun. Bi Luo Chun basically means green snail spring. So as you can see, the bus grows along the string of the tree. So you gotta nip them off. They're tender like this. It's wet now, so you can barely feel the tea because they're so tiny and everything is so wet. The best practice of picking tea is you go down the string. Of course, unexperienced workers like me sometimes don't do it as well. It's so freezing cold and wet right now, so my hands all like soaked up and all puffy looking. It's so cold because it's so wet and cold. My hands are becoming really clumsy. Like it's really hard to hold the tea. Like it becomes so sticky to the hand. I keep dropping the tea on the ground. This is not good. Correction. So I was told the wind blows through this area, so actually the tea it damaged the tea more because the heavy wind sometimes blows the top of the tea leaves away, and so that actually doesn't bud as well as the area where it doesn't catch the wind. It's really rainy right now. But we're still picking tea. One of the advantages of green tea is that you're actually able to make tea in rainy weather because it's basically stir fry dry. I don't know if you can tell, this is a growth of newer variety, and on the side over here, with my hand, that's the older variety. That's basically the top of the mountain. And when we turn around, you see that's the village. And then as far as the lake, remember East Mountain, they call it East Mountain Island. It's basically an island. When we pick the tea, you want to make sure that you actually go down the string. See, this is basically nip it off. Super tiny bud. If you can see. I was told that this area is right at where the wind comes through, so actually it buds better. It grows faster this way. Super tiny bud. Okay. Look at the bucket. See? I have some in my bucket as well. These are what I think. I'm at the East Mountain of Dong Ting right now. I'm picking Bi Luo Chun basically. So see, Bi Luo Chun picking is very different from pu'er picking. It's super tiny little buds. Even this, they need to pick out the older leaves with just a tender one left. So for many of the traditional teas, once you get to the true origin, you realize not only they have the old variety, they also have new varieties. Now this is actually an older variety. So the older variety usually buds later. The new variety is usually are just clones. They're not planted with seeds. So they have a stabilized varietal, and then they usually buds earlier. They bud more evenly. They're frost resistant, drought resistant, everything resistant. However, and it gives better yield. The older variety doesn't have any of those benefits. However, it tastes better. So it's really hard to find older variety in the market now because in the origin, a lot of them actually cut down all the old variety and plant the new ones. So right here we actually have several bushes of the newer varieties. From afar, I know it kind of looks very similar because how do you tell the difference? Now the newer variety usually they tend to grow more evenly, more like an upshoot kind of feeling. This is the older variety over here. We have bushes older. The older variety is usually fuzzier. It kind of like grows like this way, and then it kind of grows all over the place. It becomes like a bob, basically. So it's really hard to tell when they're just like singular ones. However, if you have a whole formation of the older variety or the newer variety, it's much easier to tell. You're gonna see like from afar that the newer variety has very clear the shoots and then the branches, and then on top has the grains, versus the older variety you're gonna see it's just like kind of fuzzy all over the place. It's like a kind of big area of green. Leaves wise, see, this is the new older variety and this is the newer variety. The main difference is the edge actually. Now the edge is basically, this is the fingerprint of the tea trees. So every single tea tree is going to be different, but that only applies to the older varieties, because the newer variety, these are clones. They're not from the seed, so they're all going to look the same. But this, because tea trees can cross-pollinate with pretty much anything, so these are all going to look very different. So I'm back at the East Mountain of Dong Ting right now. See, these are all the old leaves they picked out. I want to stress that in the traditional tea regions, such as where Bi Luo Chun is produced, they definitely follow a complete different standard than some of the newer tea regions. So see, these are considered old leaves that they pick out, and which is basically tiny leaves. I mean, other regions, they continue to use these leaves to produce tea. It's not, you don't see large quantities like we see in poorer regions. Each family, each day, they probably only pick like 4 or 5 pounds of tea, so like 2 kilos, versus other places it's like 100 kilos, things like that. So they follow a meticulous step where they actually, after they pick the tea leaves, they finish picking tea leaves around noontime, and then they actually will further pick them to make sure that all the, so these are all considered the older leaves, and then the piles, the leaves picked from the tea trees, and then over here are the final leaves. Usually it's only a bud and a leaf. They all remember me, and here the grandma remembers me as well. Oops. Now she's the grandma is 89 years old, and she's still picking tea. Everyone's commenting on how fat I have become. You're gonna see that in the main video. And then here's the tea that we're gonna drink. See, Bi Luo Chun is you drop the tea into the water versus water over tea. And with the glass, that's how traditionally we drink green tea, basically. So, and it drops right down to the bottom. I want to just point out again how tedious Bi Luo Chun is, that they had to pick all the tea leaves, even it's already very tender, and it takes like a third of the already picked tea are gonna get picked out and then basically just dumped away. So this is a batch of picked out ones, and this is the final Bi Luo Chun before it gets stir fried. So whenever I say that the leaves are very telling, this is what I mean. So see how many, first of all, like in other tea regions, like this is all considered really good tea leaves, right? Like if you pick pu'er, like this is considered like super desirable, but not for Bi Luo Chun. And so when you brew a tea, when the leaves open up, if it looks like this, you know it's leftover, okay? It needs to look like this. So I just kind of want to point out again, because the leaves are very, very telling. And once you know Of course, different tea are different, you know, like as we go through all the tea regions, you realize you can't apply one standard to all teas. But this is why it's very important to know every single each tea, because once you do, you're able to know that, okay, if it's Bi Luo Chun and it looks like this, no, it's not okay. It needs to look like this. So this is a batch of Bi Luo Chun in the making. Sorry, the noise is kind of loud in the background because this is part of the village life. Basically, it's an open door policy. Everybody just comes in and out. People can just come here after dinner to chat or have a little tea, or maybe even so this household, they have a better facility. They have packaging. So what happens is they actually sometimes the villagers, if they sell a batch of the tea, they will bring it here for packages. So a lot of people come visit. Now Bi Luo Chun is all stir fried by hand. So the wok temperature is about 250 degrees. Of course, the tea temperature doesn't reach that high. The reason that he is using bare hand is so he can actually feel the tea. It's very, very important to feel the tea. This is a day of work and with this one wok. That's also why I'm not giving it a try, because it's so precious. And now you see the tea is still kind of green, but already with white color coming out. It's going to become whiter and whiter in a second. The reason he's rolling the tea, other than giving the tea the spiral shape, is also to break the membrane of the tea so it releases more flavor, and to make sure the white hair comes out even more as well. Now, Bi Luo Chun is a stir-fry tea. So it's a stir-fry all the way. Basically, all the steps of making this tea is done in one wok. The stir-fry green tea, Bi Luo Chun and Dong Ting usually are the strongest green teas, which is very different from like Maofeng, which is a big dry green tea, which has a little milder taste. So now the tea leaves finally get stir fried to a certain level, and what he's doing now is the tea is basically soft enough and it's cut enough, and then he's really rolling the tea to give Bi Luo Chun that final spiral shape. And he's leaning on the side to give his arm extra support. Now, the key to not burn yourself really is to make sure that your hand never leaves the tea. He already adjusted the temperature of the wok, so it's not as high. 这现在是温度要稍微低一点，对吧？对。So the 不能太高。不能太高。Yeah. So now because the teas are drier, so it's really important to control the temperature so it's not too high. As you can see, the leaves now gets greener, but yet whiter at the same time. So all the hair from the bud, from the back of the tea leaves starts to come out. And it's really give Bi Luo Chun that spiral shape. Remember, Bi Luo Chun, the English translation is green snail spring. He needs to do this for like over 40 minutes. I mean, the whole process stir frying the tea. Hope you understand why Bi Luo Chun is so freaking expensive. So this is the batch of the Bi Luo Chun we just made. Now, really good, well-made Bi Luo Chun will sink to the bottom really quickly. Remember, it takes the spiral shape, and also we put the tea in the water versus water over tea. It's gonna happen really fast, so pay really good attention to it. And see, it sinks right onto the bottom, and it's actually really clean on the surface. This shows excellent making. Now, this is part of the tea buying trick. Now, of course, the making technique does not really tell you the terroir or the age of the tea tree, the varietals, things like that. However, usually only the people who are at the true origin holds the best making technique, and depends on, even at the true origin, depends on how well the tea was picked. People pay different attention to the tea. So usually if it shows excellent tea making, usually on the other side, it reflects that the tea actually comes from the best location as well. So I was told, this is basically the hand of a tea maker. No matter how hard he washed the hand, it's going to stay like that. He's been making tea for over 40 years, and he's saying that actually he's lucky that he can still feel his hand. A lot of the other tea makers cannot feel his hands anymore.
发现一提跟你哦，你在这干啥子？就是要找。
So here's me learning how to roll the tea again. They actually had to dim the temperature a little bit just to make sure I don't not burn the tea. It's a little wetter than the last batch I tried, so it's not too bad. However, I was still told that I need to roll it not with too much pressure, and also to make sure that I keep moving the tea so it doesn't get burned. 这个是不是还要再抖一下呀？会不会？我怕你弄糊掉。所以是要就是全部这样抖散。这样抓一下。好。
等时间长会焦掉。
Yeah. Obviously, I do not want to ruin people's tea. 不要揉太大力是吧？
现在无所谓，现在反正你现在还没到几年关头。
So this is a non-critical time, and dim the temperature. That's how I'm able to do this.